Well, hello everyone, I'm Postmaster Radio and it's time to bring on the funny. You're listening to Ujokes Weekly, the official podcast for Jonathan Mangum's virtual comedy show, Ujokes. It's where comedians compete for the best joke, plus you guys on YouTube and Facebook can compete as well. It is literally comedy gold at your fingertips. Now here's the deal with this week's podcast. Usually we talk about the comedians, and we're still going to because, well, obviously, funny people on this week's show. Jackie and Paul Greenberg for one of the episodes, once again, a marriage test, if you know what I mean, after many other couples, including Colin Mockery and his wife Deborah from past shows, but you get the gist. So Jackie and Paul Greenberg, and then for this past Friday show, he plays God on Supernatural, Rob Benedict, and she has been on Ujokes before, so this recent show was her second time on, Kelly Holden Bashar. And while all four of these comedians were really funny, here's a bit of a shocker. Only two of them wound up making this week's top 5 countdown. I kid you not. Only 2 spots go to 2 of these 4 comedians. The rest is entirely for you guys on YouTube and Facebook. I kid you not. Now, don't worry, because whichever 2 comedians don't make it onto the countdown, we'll come back to them at the end of the podcast via Ujokes Extra, so keep listening for that. And as usual, if you missed last week's podcast, catch up now via the link in the description. But right now, folks, enough chit-chat. Let's get this podcast going. For the first couple of spots on the countdown, different episodes of Ujokes, but they both go to the best one supported for Team Audience. And here they are. The 5th spot is for a game of What Are They Famous For?, where a picture is shown, and you have to come up with what that person is potentially famous for. The picture showed a big naked guy in a box with a propeller hat. The Greenbergs had some great jokes, but for me, Morgan Nunya, and I hope I am pronouncing that correctly, Morgan from the YouTube chat, who said that this guy in the box is famous for being the smartest U.S. senator. I don't know why. That joke stuck out to me, not for political reasons, but for some reason. So great joke from Morgan. Now we're going to move on to Rob and Kelly's show now. Spot number 4 on the countdown. Also for the YouTube chat, specifically Roberto S., in a game of What Is This a Commercial For? This joke involves a picture of 2 ladies with giant masks. One that looks like a baby doll, one that almost looks like a genie or a bobblehead sort of thing. And Roberto's joke was Bobblehead dating site. I kind of fell in love with that joke, to be honest. No wonder that it ended up winning that round of Ujokes. And by the way, that does prove to be a bit of a helpful advantage. Any joke like that can trump a comedian's joke in an instant. That's why it ranks a little bit higher than smartest U.S. senator. Great job, Roberto. Okay, now let's get to the laughs from the comedians. Spot number 3 on the countdown, going back to the Greenbergs episode. This is for a game of Finish the Quote. Pretty self-explanatory on this one, too. The quote was, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with ... and then you gotta fill in the rest." And I gotta say, someone on the YouTube chat had a really good joke to finish the quote in their own funny way. We will come back to that mystery joke, however, when we get to Ujokes Extra, so keep listening. But in the meantime, the Greenberg that won the game was the one and only Jackie, with this joke of hers.
A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a face mask, a shield, rubber gloves, trail mix, a teat-tote, and wine.
That's good.
So a pretty good joke from Jackie, but also, as true as it is that it kind of gave me a little bit of a COVID vibe, the other part is, you know that the teat-tote portion? A long story short, there was an earlier game before Finish the Quote in which she had done a teat-tote sort of joke. It did not win the game for her at that time, though. So essentially, this was kind of a callback to a failed joke, which luckily paid off for her. She won the game. Bravo, Jackie. Good joke all around. Just wanted to add that in there. So congrats. The second spot on the countdown is going to go to God himself from Supernatural, Rob Benedict. and for a game of not finish the quote, but finish the lyric. And the lyric was, here it is, 1, 2, 3, my baby don't mess around because, and then ... And I apologize for my bad singing. I may like this song, but my attempts at singing to this song are not as successful as understanding its lyrics. LOL. And while I do want to give a shout out to Kelly Holden Bashar, because she had a pretty good joke for this game, there is no beating a joke like Rob's, not only because of it being sort of a little long-winded, but there's like a bunch of funny stuff added in here and there that goes along with it. You'll see what I mean in a second, but here's Rob's joke.
1, 2, 3, 4. My baby don't mess around because I love her so, and she told me she was going to Sheila's, and that was 6 hours ago. So I called Sheila, who hadn't heard from her, and I tried her cell, and a guy answered, and it sounded like Steve from accounting. So maybe she does.
Yes.
Hey,
Oh, man. That was funny.
Yeah, did you get all that? I thought so, but a fantastic joke from Rob. No wonder it was the best joke for this particular game of Finish the Lyric. I'm impressed. So we've had jokes from Jackie Greenberg, Rob Benedict, but if you're waiting on Paul Greenberg and Kelly Holden Bashar, you're going to have to wait until Ujokes Extras, because the number one spot on the countdown, and this has not happened in a while for the Ujokes podcast, but this is going to go to the audience once again, but in this case, sort of for 2 moments, 2 jokes near the end of Jackie and Paul's show. That spot goes to Josh Begley. Yes, Mr. Josh Begley from Boston has the number one spot on the Ujokes countdown. Now, what did I mean when I said that this is for 2 jokes, you might be asking? Well, honestly, I couldn't decide between the one he had for last show's best, which was for the picture of a guy who's essentially half naked, and I may have mentioned this pic on last week's podcast. Hanging on his nipples are pop cans, one of them being Bud Light, but that's unrelated. Point being, Josh's joke for this one, it's pure genius, honestly. If you know, not Hannibal Lecter, but Can Nipple Lecter. I mean, how can you not see the genius in a joke like that? So bravo, Josh. That's what got him invited onto that episode of Ujokes. But then he just kept making us laugh in the inspirational poster game for the picture of a cat walking away from an explosion. And I know I say this every time I start the Ujokes podcast, but this is another fine example of why Ujokes truly is comedy gold at your fingertips.
Yeah, I think, Jonathan, this says perseverance. Keep looking forward because hindsight is literally the year 2020.
That's deep. That's deep.
Seriously, no offense to the other comedians, but Josh Begley, I think he was pretty much my favorite all week, if I'm being honest. Again, no offense to the comedians, but wow. I mean, Josh came to play, people. He really did. So congrats for being on Ujokes for this past Tuesday show alongside Jackie and Paul Greenberg. And fun little fact too, this was his second time on Ujokes, with the other instance being a past episode with Jen Kober and Jamie Kaler, but that's another story for another day. Anyway, hope you had so much fun on Ujokes, Josh, and who knows, maybe you'll be back for a third time. I see the potential. So that's it for my 5 favorite Ujokes moments of the week, and now it's time to go from the top 5 countdown to the Ujokes Awards, which is like the Oscars, although far, far shorter. First up, we have Comedian of the Week, and you know what? This award is going to go to Rob Benedict. A bit of a tough call. No, not really. It was actually kind of an easy choice, especially because of his joke in Finish the Lyric with the, the 1, 2, 3, my baby don't mess around lyric. And yes, I did not try to sing that so badly a second time, LOL. But seriously, Rob Benedict coming in with Comedian of the Week. Congrats. Next up, we have Game of the Week, and this award, I'm not joking this time, this was actually a tough call because all of the games, most of them anyway, were pretty spot on, not only because of the picks, courtesy of Jonathan's producer Josh, but of the comedians as well. And in the end, I'm gonna give it to Inspirational Poster purely because of Josh Begley, and then of course in Rob Benedict's case, Finish the Lyric. 2 great games all around. Speaking of Josh Begley, by the way, I don't think this is any surprise that the audience award goes to him. Again, I dare say that he was even better than the comedians, but he was at least the best person to come from the YouTube chat, if not the entire audience, with his amazing joke for last show's best, and again, inspirational poster with the Hindsight 2020. So congrats once more, Josh. And for the last award of the night, the Mangum Moment. Because this is Jonathan's show too, we gotta give him some credit. In the end, I decided to go with the intro that he had for Rob and Kelly's show, because that one was episode 36 of Ujokes. He did a really funny joke at the beginning where he's like, I have some fun facts about 36, you're gonna hear them whether you want to or not. And then at the end, he does like a fake little snoring thing as if he's kind of mocking the attention span of many young people who may not necessarily care for this potential information. So, bit of a funny LOL moment from Jonathan, bravissimo, and that's that for the Ujokes Awards. Nice. So, we're almost done with this week's podcast, but we do still have a couple of other jokes to discuss. One of them, as part of the first of our 3 Ujokes extras, once again from the audience, and this is a shout out for YouTube user TheoryMan05. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with, where the hell are my keys? Love that little joke there. And for the rest of the extras, here's where we get into Paul Greenberg and Kelly Holden Bashar. Paul's joke, sorry that he did not make the countdown. I dare say that it proves that Jackie might be the funnier comedian in the Greenberg couple. No offense to Paul. But he did have a really good joke for, remember that game of What Are They Famous For with the naked guy in the box?
Okay, this guy is famous for thinking outside the box, but then crapping inside the box.
Ah, yes.
And yes, I know, he technically won the round with that joke, but still, I mean, it was a good joke, don't get me wrong. Something about smartest US senator it gravitated towards me, that one. No offense to Paul's joke, though, because that was pretty good, too. And for the last of our Ujokes extras this week, Kelly Holden Bashar coming in with a joke from Name the Movie at the start of the episode, and honestly, I feel very sorry that Kelly did not make the top 5 countdown, but when you're going up against people from the audience like TheoryMan05 and Josh Begley, you gotta be ready to give it your all. Nonetheless, you do have to admit that Kelly still had a pretty funny joke for, again, Name the Movie, and for the picture of a dog with a needle in its mouth and glowing red eyes as if it is possessed.
Well, clearly this is from Tarantino's remake of his classic called Pup Fiction.
Nice.
Yeah, this is the Roseanne Arquette character.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, no. She is not aged well.
Not too shabby, Kelly. Not too shabby at all. Anyway, once again, very surprising that many of you on the YouTube and, oh, who am I kidding, YouTube chat. No offense to the guys and gals on Facebook, but I think this time around, and I'm not saying this just because I always play along on the YouTube chat and not on Facebook, because I'm not much of a Facebook guy. I am not saying it because of that, but I really do honestly think that the YouTube chat really dominated this week on Ujokes. No offense to those of you on Facebook, and again, no offense to our comedians either. But, that's the way things go. We'll have to see what happens for next week's Ujokes shows. And speaking of which, a quick reminder before we sign off. New episodes of Ujokes, Tuesdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. And if you missed Friday's show, well, then make sure you're hanging around on the Ujokes YouTube channel, link in the description, or via Facebook Live, and go back to Friday's show, the one with Rob, Benedict, and Kelly Holden Bashar. If you have a joke for a game and you did not submit that joke, then go ahead and do it while you can before Tuesday's show, because you could be invited to play along on the next episode of Ujokes, and you can play along live in the final round. That's a lot of fun to do, trust me, I've been there. And also, don't forget to stay connected with me on Twitter and Instagram at Postmaster Radio, and if you want to check out my Ujokes podcast, you can find them on YouTube, along with Spreaker and Spotify. The account links are all in the description. Thanks again for listening to this week's edition of Ujokes Weekly. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and until next time, well, bye for now. See ya!